Internet. I am Rob here once again in the lair of OmnusI. And again, voice isn't still 100%. I'm getting close. So I've got a little water to soothe my throat. You can put up with a little bit of coughing, I trust. Tonight I ran another short adventure for my son. So this is going into the little feet, or beginning first steps category of detailing his experience and kind of relating some of the things that we go with together. So, well, let's just get into it, shall we? Again, my son is playing a 3rd level dwarf paladin named Humblee, and because his mother wasn't available and kind of standoffish on playing with him, it was just he and I. And he's in the vicinity of one of the largest dungeons in Greyhawk, the ruins of the Towers of Greyhawk. So he kind of let his relationship with the rogue Rostov lapse early on. He just didn't seem to have the drive to keep going with a relationship with Rostov. And Rostov was mostly interested in money. He wasn't bad, but, you know, he was interested in lining his pockets as much as possible. So he kind of left somewhat in disgust at Humblee's lack of ambitions, perhaps. So, to kind of spur things along, he was asking about what kind of things he could do. And I was willing to run a Greyhawk City adventure, running through some different scenarios. There's always things that you can do in the city. If he really wanted to explore being good and noble and throwing himself at the biggest evil, I actually have some adventures that I made for a previous adventure in the Shield Lands across the Near Div, which are currently under the sway of bandits and demons from Ayuz's, the evil demigod that actually lives on the world. Have kind of taken over these lands that used to be called the Shield Lands because they were the borders between these horrible creatures and civilization. And now that it's been overrun, there's a crusade to take it back. So then he also, I gave him other options: hunting down bandits in the Kron Hills, which are nearby, to going south and finding orcs in the Pomarge if he wanted to. It's a great uncivilized swamp, but there are outreaches there to try to tame back the green horde of all the different races and things that are down there. He chose to go to the ruins. And being just one person going into a rather challenging dungeon, I had 2 choices. I could either defang the encounters, which I don't think would be fair to him, or I could allow him to have hirelings, which would be a lot of details he'd have to control, or I could come up with an NPC party. That was my choice. And I told him, rather than having to make him go back to Greyhawk and look for people, I told him about the camp town that had been formed right outside of the ruins from all these people whose parties went in, and they were the only survivors. They didn't want to go back to the city necessarily. They still wanted to take a crack in the dungeon, but they wanted some more veteran leadership to form a group and go. It's artificial, it's contrived, but it works. And my son didn't call BS on it, so why not? So he went there and he talked to it was Frank the Fighter, again with my alliterative NPCs. And Frank kind of explained the situation, that the people who were there were, looking to hire on with a group that was going back into the towers. They knew the wealth was there, but they knew the challenge was too much for these mostly first-level scrubs who were hoping for that lucky score. And since my son doesn't understand economics right now, he thought, well, the easiest way is just to promise them a share of the treasure. Since he's 3rd level, he was easily the boss of any of them. They were mostly made up of 2nd and 1st level characters. So going through them, I had short interviews. First he wanted somebody who could take care of traps. And there were a couple of sneaky looking rogues. And there was a bard who was good at that kind of thing. He had an urchin background and stuff. And he was Bernie the Bard. And Alex liked him and signed him on. Frank the Fighter said, you could use an extra sword. And Alex was like, okay, it sounds okay. There was lots of fighters to choose from, but Frank was big, massive, and used a big weapon. So great weapon fighter is not a bad thing. And then he wanted a spellcaster. And I gave him basically a flavor selection. There was a tiefling warlock. There was a young apprentice wizard. And then the sorcerer came kind of stumbling along at the end. So wait a second, I can do this too. He eventually went with the tiefling warlock, which I thought was interesting. The tiefling demonstrated his ability by blasting at the rock, a loose stone, and pulverized it with an amazing damage roll. So that was their party. It was William the Warlock, Frank the Fighter, and Bernie the Bard. And the alliteration is to help Alex more than me. If it was my full campaign, I usually come up with backstories and reasons for the characters and names that fit more of the world. But in this case, it's his first real adventure. So in a previous adventure, he found a secret way to get into the towers without alerting the guards. So he's like, well, I know a way to get into the dungeons without the guards basically make you give them a portion of any gold that you pull out, or they make you play a game where you wager what you're going to pull out against the possibility of not having to give them anything. And the dwarves aren't evil, so you don't have the temptation to slaughter them all unless you're kind of feeling churlish about it. And they're tough enough that a party that gets to the bottom of this tower would be powerful enough to go up and wipe the floor with the dwarves if they wanted to. But he showed them the secret way in, and they started going into the ruins, exploring the dungeon proper. Now, I like to, after the party has cleared out some, I like a living dungeon scenario. So when they cleared those out, I then, remembering the progress they had made, he was walking through a dungeon that was fairly familiar to him. That was the last segment of the dungeon that they had cleared. And I had an evil priest from a lower level who was restocking undead in the upper levels to, keep the adventurers away from them. So he was walking along with 5 skeletons. The party was at full health, so they charged. And the comedy of errors began. First up, we had... My son was distraught because he rolled a 6 for initiative. His dwarf doesn't have a lot of dexterity. And he was sad that everyone else seemed to go first. Well... The first thing that they had done, they actually had found the room that they had cleared out that was a safe room to hide in, so they were ready to fall back if they needed to. So the bard first threw out his vicious mockery. I love vicious mockery for a bard. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but it's just fun. And honestly, that disadvantage that they get in return has saved a group before. So he insulted the priest, which actually worked. So that was good. And the priest then turned around and dropped his version of Sacred Flame, Profane Flame, and took out the bard in one shot. Knocked him unconscious. I gave the characters that he went in with PC rules on dying, so he was dropped, but not outright killed. Then he set the skeletons up. 3 of the skeletons went after Humblee. Clank, clank, clank. 19 armor class is hard to hit at low levels. Fairly tough. But then, 2 shots, both of them hitting on the less armored Frank the Fighter, and damn near max damage, drops Frank. He's a 2nd level fighter, but didn't even have a chance to use his second wind or any other ability. He just dropped. So 2 members of the group dropped in the opening round before the players have had really much of a chance to do anything. So Humblee's turn comes around, he comes up, and I kind of had him, he's like, oh, okay, what do I do? And I'm like, remember, you've got options. And I showed him the abilities that he had just gotten at 3rd level, including Turn the Unholy, which allows you to turn the undead. So he used that and drove away 3 of the 5 skeletons that they were having to deal with, which was good. It made it a manageable fight. And then William, the warlock, showed exactly how a warlock likes to use his blasting power. And he smote a skeleton down with one gesture. Blew it up. So then the comedy of errors started to happen. Everything that priest tried to do to Humblee just slid off. Humblee managed to hurt the priest. There was a little banter between them, which was nice. But then the priest healed himself, which really annoyed Alex. And so he went up to engage him after William destroyed the other skeleton on him. And he didn't really think about bringing his friends back up. He was more concerned with beating down the threat that was there. So he moves up and starts attacking the priest. The priest continues to mock him and attempts to cast Hold Person. Alex rolled nothing but 20s for his saving throws, I swear. Laughed it off. No problems. So then, combined with another good clubbing blow from his warhammer, dropping the guy to 1 hit point, William, maximum damage. It was a critical, actually. No, but he blasted him and took him down. So they got through that encounter. They quit. Now that Humblee is 3rd level, he now has 15 points that he can spread out to heal with his Lay On of Hands. So he gave 5 and 5 to the bard and the fighter who were down. Got them up. Both of them had made their death saves and they were stable, so he got them up. And they decided they were going to just kind of go off and rest rather than waiting for those skeletons to come back. So they stuck back into their safe room. Turned out, though, that the bard really didn't have that many hit points anyhow because of poor constitution. And before they took the hour-long rest, Frank the fighter used his second wind ability and pretty much healed himself up with that 5-point kicker that he was given from Humblee. So they were back in business. 1 hour later, Frank's got his second wind back. They're ready to go. They're ready to take on those skeletons that came back. So they come out and they mopped up the skeletons. Frank took another shot. It's frustrating because his armor class, he still gets hit without any problem. And I decided I was going to let William take out one. So to help him out, I had Bernie move up and try to aid him by menacing the skeleton to line up William's shot. And I rolled a 3 and a 4 for William, so that's a clear miss. The skeleton had, there's an unarmored human here in front of me, and I have a sword. Let's make him meet. Took down the bard again. So that caused Humblee to use his last 5 points to get him back up after the fight. But even though he was out of healing, they decided they were going to continue. They had a good feeling. So they went down some stairs and found themselves in they found a room that was just junk storage. All the broken bits and things that these evil priests had found from adventurers were in this room. So they were wading through it, and I gave them quick investigation rolls to see if they could detect that there was a concealed entrance. One of the walls was very, very thin. And I rolled natural 20 for Bernie, so he did have some use, other than comic relief and sponging up the healing. The way was cleared out with a single swing of the maul of Frank. And poor Alex was getting some weapon envy. He saw the size of Frank's maul and was like, his maul is so much bigger than my warhammer. But of course, Humblee's using either a warhammer and a longsword and his shield. He's very hard to hit. It's working out for him very well. So they go into the next room, and they find a bunch of rubble. They find peeping viewing areas into a set of prison cells. But they also find all this rubble, and when they clear away the rubble, they find a chest. And this is where Bernie shows his skills. He finds out, well, the chest is all, completely sealed with wax. There's probably some kind of a gas inside. So what I'm going to do is, Humblee, you're pretty much invulnerable to gases and poisons. I'm just going to crack the wax. I just need you to pull this out and get out of the way. Well, he's like, okay, I'm going to grab it and pull it. He's like, no, wait, I haven't got out of the way yet. The gas came out. They both made their saving throws versus nasty paralysis. The gas abated. They looted the chest. They found 3 more of these vials. So Alex took one, and the warlock and the bard took one. The fighter, little glass. I'm not gonna throw that. Now at this point, I am giving these characters personality. Frank is kind of abrasive and dismissive of things that don't involve fighting. William is kind of acerbic. He kind of has a nasty little edge to him. He's not evil, but he's a little bitter. He's hard-bitten. And Bernie is just kind of a doof. He's just kind of happy-go-lucky. I'm a first-level bard. I'm happy to be here. I have some skills, too. I can do more than just insult people. So the next fight, they go in, and they go down a tunnel, and they hear somebody talking. So they send Bernie up to listen, but Alex makes an amazing roll. Again, 18s and 20s, rolling like crazy. And he hears the priest talking about, oh, well, if those darn adventurers would stop slaughtering our skeletons, maybe these zombies will be better. And he's like, oh, we're going to go get them. Well, the party was brought to them because the bard blew his stealth roll. So the priests were coming to investigate anyhow. The fight started. Priests knew to expect, so there wasn't really a surprise. They rolled for initiatives again. The priest rolled a 1 for their initiative, so the rest of the group got to tee off. And Alex is like, throw the globe! Throw the globe! At Bernie. He's like, Bernie, I could only hear them, and now I can see them. Throws the globe, rolls a natural 20. It was, I swear, tonight it was like 6 or 7 natural 20s out of not that many dice rolls. But rolled a natural 20, he put it right at the feet of the priests, made the gas cloud. 2 of the dark priests dropped, paralyzed. And because this was first edition, and I'm only loosely translating, that paralysis duration was 1 to 8 hours. 1d8 hours. So they were out of the fight. The fun part was, Frank moves up to attack, because he rolled well for his initiative. And he hits, clocks the guy, showing that the priest is actually a half-orc. But the gas is still there. He fails his saving throw. Frank is down for 3 hours. Alex either didn't catch that cue or didn't care because he's a dwarf and to heck with it. He charges up, smacks the guy with his longsword, rolls natural 20 for a saving throw. No problem. Got this. In spades. So the priest is not real happy either. And of course William is firing away with his wizard's warlock's bolts. His eldritch blast. And the orc proves to be a tougher fight. He heals himself, which again really bothers Humblee. And for fun, I just had to have the bard try to do something, and this worked pretty well in the last adventure that my Thursday night group did. He moved up and he cast heroism on Humblee, giving him an extra 5 hit points every round of temporary damage, so that they really had to chop him to really threaten him. But the gas was still there. It was still there for a full round until he threw it, so he botched his roll and down 2 for an hour. So that was fun. Humblee got to go hammer a mono with the priest, who again was trying to cast spells that were going to put him down and just couldn't make anything stick. Alex was rolling saving throw after saving throw, and this half orc was notably frustrated. They had one zombie, but I was rolling amazingly for the warlock, and he just blew it up with his eldritch blasts. And then Humblee got this half orc priest down to 1 hit point, and I rolled a critical hit for the next eldritch blast coming in, so he was blown up. And we didn't have a great deal of time to play tonight, only about 2 hours, but that was a lot of combat. They were going to have to break back, dragging Frank again out of the fight, although this time because he's paralyzed. They stopped the creation of zombies on this level, which is important. They didn't know how to do that before, and so there's more undead in the upper levels, but they stopped it, which is good. They aren't going to have to worry about these kind of undead on the second and first levels anymore. And they haven't gotten the experience yet. All they found really was some minor treasure on the opponents. I don't think he even bothered to, or had a chance to loot the evil priests. But that is where they ended up. So as far as his first steps, his dice are incredibly lucky. That's not a bad thing, but hopefully it doesn't breed a false sense of overconfidence. But it's good to have fun, and he's having fun with this. What I really, though, have to do is thank all of you for paying attention and listening to these videos, which I think are a lot of fun, because the role-playing is fine, and he does good, even though sometimes it frustrates him. He got frustrated when the NPCs were bantering with each other, and William and Frank, the fighter and the warlock, were kind of verbally sparring, and Alex was just like, no, they've got to stop. Stop arguing. You two have got to work together. We've got to work together in this. And it was really good. But he gets so frustrated, he just doesn't have the words. And eventually he kind of yelled at Frank, and Frank's like, do you have a problem with me? If you have a problem, say something. And he's like, he doesn't like Frank's kind of dismissive tone he gives with the others, because Frank's point of view only goes as far out as his great club. He doesn't really have any empathy, and his charisma is poor. And I'm role-playing this, that his charisma is really poor. I just went on my static table of NPCs. Frank has a 6 charisma, so he's not winning a lot of friends. And again, I'm playing this out that, this isn't a guy that you want doing your talking for you. Although he thinks he's a good talker, and he will try to horn his way into a conversation that he probably has no business being in. So, whereas William is quite wise, he's world wise, and he has an excellent charisma at stinging people when he wants to, which he uses kind of as a weapon in social engagements. Alex has to learn that kind of thing that comes with that character. So that probably won't be a very long-term relationship. He'll probably go one way or the other, and maybe get rid of both of them at some point. He has ultimate control over how the group goes. Right now they haven't found a lot of treasure, so dividing it up for this small group really wouldn't be that hard, and he can go out and find new people. So, be interesting to see what happens in the next episode in First Steps. So thank you for watching. Again, he's very excited at me recording his exploits. So, if you pay attention to this and I keep doing this, I can only hope that he'll want to keep role-playing. Keep enjoying listening to him, his exploits, and me relating them. Almost as much fun as he's having with just playing the game. We'll see if we can't make him enjoy the game more, though. So, more to do. Thank you again for listening. I'm Rob, here in the lair of OmnusI, thanking you for listening to my son's First Steps. Farewell.